Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I was all into I was jamming. We forgot why we were here.
We fucking look like Night at the Roxbury up in here.
Anyways, welcome to another week.
Case Files with Kat.
Ashley. One day we're going to get our name right. One day we'll get it together. Not
She's
today.
had one sip of beer and already we're off the rails. Already. So, hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
What are you drinking?
Oh, I've got some of the new stuff from our super fan. I know this is I picked it. You know, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I totally am judging this by the cover. This is the Ghost Captain Space Hop IPA. Yeah, I'm really loving this. This is from Crux, I guess. Yes, Crux Fermentation Project. Yeah, it's
a beautiful can.
It is. It's beautiful, and it's hot pink and black and purple. So it's kind of like Barbie meets true crime. This is a weird Barbie, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Well,
what do you got?
I am also drinking a beer from our super fan, and it's from Left Hand Brewing. It's the milk stout. It's the nitro, and it's so good. It's like got dark chocolate and coffee, and it's kind of like caramelized sugar type thing. It's like, it says, from our hand to yours, good to go from the can like a pro in a glass.
Ooh, I like that.
Super smooth with a soft roastiness and mocha notes. It is really good.
This was the first beer she actually liked.
This one?
This one.
Like the one I'm talking about?
The one that you're...
This
is
okay.
the
Yeah, because
first
she's an
beer.
IPA drinker, right?
Yeah, but that was her first beer.
Well, I've had other stuff from Left Hand. They're out of Colorado, and it's really good. I love it.
Yeah, this is just smooth.
I haven't drank a beer on the show in a very long time, and I really shouldn't, but I couldn't resist because they're good.
And we've been sitting here waiting for the lawn guys to finish up talking about all the bullshit that's happening all around, and we're just like, so tell us about more. Yeah, you know, it's like when true crime is still happening, and there's it's not the past. It's not like there's an ending to it. It's just happening right now in our area, and you're just like, damn.
And just real quick about this beer, there's also a non-nitro version, and I've had the non-nitro version. It's a really, it's a really cute bottle. It's like purple, and it's got a cow on it, and it's like right up my alley. But it's also really good. So if nitro beers aren't your thing, but you are into stouts, the non-nitro, like the regular Left Hand milk stout, is really good. So
nice.
Sorry. Anyways,
nice. Like it. So what do you have for us?
Real quick. I wanted to re-mention, and I'm going to say it again at the end in case someone doesn't listen all the way to the end or someone skips the beginning and they listen to the end. We do have a contest going.
Hey.
I did post it on Facebook.
You did.
It's 12 art prints from Crypt Kitty artwork. You can see all the prints. If you want me to show you what they look like on my own wall, I will. But all you have to do is leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to us on. Screenshot us the review. And you'll be entered, and we're going to do that for a while. So anyways, it's 12 prints. You get all of them. They're very nice. So anyways, okay. Originally, I was going to do the serial killer from Australia. It was an unsolved serial killer story. But when I started looking more into it, it was another one where it was just involved a lot of children, and I just... I didn't want to do another story that involved a lot of children right now. Like, it was a lot to do the other one.
Yeah. And then I did one right after you. So I was like, awesome. Everyone's so excited.
Yeah. So I thought I would keep it. I mean, when I say lighthearted, this isn't a lighthearted, feel-good story. It sounds hilarious, but it was very horrific.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, when we start talking about it. The things that happened to the people were horrific.
Okay, so for all of us
I'm going to explain what Final Fantasy is.
Okay, because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure it means something to the cult, but not to me.
Okay. So before I get really into this, I want to say if you're interested in learning more than what I talk about, or going down a rabbit hole about this because you are into gaming or you're into cults or whatever, there is a YouTube video called The Final Fantasy House Down the Rabbit Hole. The full video is like 40 minutes. I'll have it in the show notes. And there's another deep dive YouTube video that goes into it as well that's also in the notes. A lot of what I talk about come from that video and this really, really in-depth Vice article. Pretty much, I'm not going to lie, a lot of this comes from the Vice article because it was just... It's his story. It's the guy's story. Oh. As he's talking, he tells it to Vice. Like Vice interviewed the guy directly that started all of this exposing of the cult or whatever.
Exposes.
So, so those are two really good things to check out if you do want to look into more than what I'm giving you this evening.
I'm going to have to just trust your description of Final Fantasy. What?
So
is that a movie too?
I think so. But if you're unfamiliar with Final Fantasy, it was a very, very popular role-playing game. It was
No, I gotta look it up.
It was it was developed by a Japanese game developer. There was a bunch of series. It was actually a really fun game. It was on PlayStation. I think it's on other platforms now, but it was originally on PlayStation. I loved it.
Oh, I recognize the art. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So each game, though, is a standalone game. So, like, even though Final Fantasy VII, it wasn't like a continuation, right? Like the first 6, it's not the 7th game in a chronological story. They're all individual. Each game is its own individual.
They're on 16
story.
now.
Yeah, but it's their own story. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So you don't need to have played one to get to the other.
No.
There's no. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Final Fantasy VII was originally released in 1997. It was on PlayStation, like the first PlayStation, if you're that old. I was 11. I just have to throw that in because she gets so upset.
That young.
The game was like a huge hit. It was considered one of the best, most influential games of its time. And to this day, it is the top-selling game for the developer. It's of all time. It had over 13 million sales. So the characters and the settings are so popular that there have been nearly a dozen games after the fact, like you just said, 16 in total, as well as a full feature film. The game is being remade. Part 1, like the new part's coming out, or it may already be out. It's coming out soon if it's not. Anyway, so Final Fantasy VII is a story told through an unreliable narrator and a mercenary named Cloud Strife. So he joins, and this is all important for the story.
Strife or strike?
Strife.
Okay.
He joins these eco-terrorists on what starts off as a simple anti-corporate mission that quickly spirals into epic proportions. The corporation is known as Shinra, and very much like Umbrella Corp. Like if you're familiar with Resident Evil, they had the same kind of vibe. Like they were just as evil. They wanted all of the power and all of the money. They didn't care how they got it. They bred super soldiers to get it. So 30 years prior to the game starting, Shinra found the remains of an alien entity called Jenova, and they've been using its DNA for the experiment ever since. So Jenova is important because that's going to be a part of the cult.
Okay, so Cloud Strife, Shinra is the company, and
Jenova is the alien entity that they're taking DNA from to do experiments on. So the primary antagonist is sorry, I lost my spot. The primary antagonist is known as, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, so please don't kill me, but Sephiroth?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sorry if you play the game. I never got it right.
Everyone's going to be like,
Sephiroth. Anyways, a mysterious trench coat. I know they probably are. I mean, people are very serious about these video games. Like, I'm very serious about the ones I play about. I just don't play Final Fantasy anymore. So anyways, a mysterious trench coat wearing soldier of sorts that some time ago found out that he was the result of a genetic experiment that turns him into the enemy of the planet.
Oh my gosh.
So he kind of pulls an eye for an Armageddon narrative. It's up to the players to stop him, all while Cloud struggles to know what's true. Okay. So that is the basis, very simple explanation of Final Fantasy VII, like very basic. So the Final Fantasy house was this cult that fascinated thousands of people across the internet, and it remains a stern warning for fandoms being taken too far today. So a lot of times when people talk about fandoms, they reference this because this is one that just started and just snowballed and just went out of control. Like, the story is nuts, okay? And I don't mean the people that fell for it are nuts, because, you know, it's very easy to fall into a cult. I'm not blaming them for fall. I'm just saying the story itself is insane, okay?
Was there a 42nd generational witch who could shapeshift and was a vampire and a werewolf?
Well, anyways, it also helped bring the Otherkin, which I'm going to explain these words to everybody, okay? So it also helped bring the Otherkin into web culture awareness. So Otherkin is a fringe group of people who claim to be the reincarnation of mythical creatures. So they think that they are mythical. Otherkin, like all one word. Oh, okay. Yeah, they think that they are the reincarnation of mythical creatures, okay? This particular form of Otherkin concerning the Final Fantasy house deals with the offshoot called soul bonders. These people believe that they're the reincarnation of video game characters from an alternate dimension. So soul bonders really... Are you done? I'll give you a moment. If we get hate because of you...
Hold on. I'm just... This is beyond my wealth of knowledge. Okay. My wealth. I don't play video games. So in another dimension, these video game characters are real.
And these people are reincarnations of those.
Okay. But in our dimension,
they are the characters.
They are video
the video game character, but like the real life version.
Got it.
So
but
like
in the other dimension, are they real, or are they a video game in the other dimension?
I don't know what they view them as in the other. I'm assuming they view them as real, period.
Oh, okay.
Because they are reincarnations of them, so they would have to be real to be reincarnate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I guess I was wondering. Okay.
So they take the name of a character, and they have very strange and ritualistic obsessions with them, believing themselves to have a special connection with the character on a spiritual level. And this is not a unique thing. Like, there are thousands of people out there
that makes more sense than the first sentence.
Yeah. Well, they fully, like, they act, they dress like, they talk like, they go by the names of the characters, like they are fully immersed, like they are the characters. So the person that's going to be talked out throughout this story, all of the real life names, like the actual people's names, have been changed because they wanted to be anonymous in the videos and the articles. They didn't want anyone to know who they were. They're trying to get away from being associated with this. But the main guy, the one that exposed all of it, his name is Sid. And he was the one that started to expose them. And the first thing he told the reporters, or not the reporters, excuse me, the first thing he said when he started posting was, "These people are dangerous. This is not a joke. This is my real experience with them." So he started forums and websites, and I'll talk about all of those, but they're still up there. Like, he tried to warn as many people as possible about this particular cult that was happening. So the Final Fantasy house is the name given to an apartment that was rented by two individuals referred to as Jenova. Her real name was, so this is her real name. Her real name is Jennifer Cornett, and then someone named Hojo. Now, these are both characters from the game. So Jenova was the alien. Okay. So yeah. So Jenova, or Jen for short, believed and convinced others that they were actually video game characters reincarnated in the real world. Jen and Hojo would then lure people into the apartment, assign them a video game character that they supposedly lived as in a past life, and then proceeded to abuse them in a number of ways.
They assigned them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just knew that Jenova just knew who they were.
Oh, but what if they didn't identify with that character?
It didn't matter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
if you were part of this house and you were friends with her, you were whatever she told you were.
Imagine having that much power. Golly.
Yeah. And I mean, and she convinced them. Like,
yeah.
So it wasn't the hunger that finally drove Sid to leave the Final Fantasy VII house. It wasn't the way others took advantage of him, a 19-year-old trans kid with a love of art and a self-admitting drinking problem. It wasn't even the abuse or the ears listening in whenever he tried to communicate with the outside world. What really did it was the theft of his shoes. And I know that sounds funny, but he said, like in the interview in Vice, he said the rainstorm that lashed State College, Pennsylvania the day before had been so intense that the little supermarket where Sid worked lost power and sent him home. He walked the whole way back in the rain without an umbrella or an overcoat. When he arrived at the second-story apartment he shared with his 2 roommates, he was soaked and shivering. He left his shoes outside to dry and went inside to the glitter-covered surfaces, the rank odor of the neglected trash, the shouting and emotional abuse. But the next morning, his shoes were gone. He said, "You may think it's a silly reason to snap," he later wrote on a public warning, which is his website where he was warning people. It's called A Public Warning, Final Fantasy VII Fandom. So it was a website that he started detailing his and others' experiences. But he went on to say, but that's what did it. This god-awful town with these god-awful people who were bleeding me dry saw fit that my money was not enough, that they had to take my shoes too. So that's what made him finally leave. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened when he left, and then what happened, like how he got into it, what was happening in the house, and then what they're up to now.
And where was this again?
This was in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So Sid walked out. It was August 2002. The summer sun was beating down. It was burning his feet. He had taken a change of clothes, a pocket knife, a sketchbook, a pencil, and all the money he had left, which was only $5. He said, "I was homeless for a few days," he recalled on his website. "I had the freedom to walk where I wanted and sit down where I wanted. There were no smells. There was no fighting. I wasn't sick on the food I ate. No one was waking me up telling me to go outside and look at the fairy rings. I swear to you, I would much rather be homeless than live with people like them ever again. The threat of homelessness does not faze me because I have seen something much worse." Damn. So these houses, because there were several in succession, were the homes of a real-world role-playing cult run by a woman whose fantasies left lives in shambles. It shows that even as accumulating friends online and translating those online friendships to real-life ones becomes more and more widespread, we still can't be totally sure of like who the person is that we're talking to through the monitor until we meet them. And so these online relationships, as a lot of us know, can be important, especially if you're unhappy and you're young. They feel like, for Sid, for example, he felt really out of place in his real life surroundings. But these things can spiral out of control. Like if you don't know who you're talking to and you're going through something and they know how to manipulate you.
That's right.
I mean, it's very easy to fall into, oh, we'll give you something better. We'll be your family. We'll be your friends. And so after Sid escaped, he recorded his and others' experiences in a public warning website that I mentioned earlier. It was widely circulated. According to the article in Vice, the people Vice spoke to, Sid and other members of the Final Fantasy house and interested observers, those affiliated with the cult, covered their tracks. So a lot of them deleted all of their old blogs. They deleted messages off boards, anything that could tie them to this game, this woman, this house. When they left, when they cut ties with it, they tried to cover anything that would tie them back to it. So there's very few people willing to actually talk about it publicly. Sid was one of the very few ones, and the ones that do, again, don't want to use their real names. The experiences they had at the house left them feeling traumatized, ashamed, and mistrustful. And the Sid said that the mini cult ringleader Joanna, so she went by, just so you know, she went by several names. She went by Jenova, Jennifer, Joanna, but again, all the names have been changed, but her name was Jennifer. Her real name is Jennifer. So, Joanna was 20 years old when the Final Fantasy house began in 2002. Sid had...
Joanna is Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, Joanna was 20 years old when the Final Fantasy house began in 2002, and she had arrived in State College to live with her girlfriend, Rachel. Now, Rachel is Hojo. Okay, so it's two women running the apartment. Okay. So, I don't know Rachel's real name, but she is the one that goes by Hojo. According to Sid and McCullough, another former member, Joanna's background beyond that is tough to pin down. She went out of her way to hide her origins, spinning tales of secret government programs and training camps in the desert. Nate, a former friend of Joanna's, says that she spent time at Cross Creek Residential Treatment Center in Otherkin, Utah, a defunct reform school that has faced multiple lawsuits for its alleged brutal and widespread physical and psychological abuse of teenagers in the program. Supporting that was a live journal post from 2004 by a woman named Patricia, one of Joanna's roommates in a later version of the house, because I'll explain it later, but they move into multiple houses. Anyways, and a fellow participant in the Cross Creek program. So, according to these people, she was, it is a fact that when she was younger, she was part of this reform school where they were known to physically and mentally abuse teenagers. Does that excuse all the stuff that she ends up doing? No, but that is her background. And that's really the only background people know on her. So I'm just going to keep calling her Joanna because that's what the articles call her. And so if you're looking at the article, it's going to be confusing if I start changing names. So slowly Sid realized that Joanna's talk of reincarnation, multiple personalities, and magic was not role-playing, but she actually believed it. Like, she wasn't role-playing. A lot of the people in the community role-played, right? Like, it was something they did. It was a hobby. She fully believed that she was this character and that these other people were these characters and that they were living this life. She supposedly fully believed it. So Joanna's mental instability, never properly treated, deteriorated after her stay at Cross Creek, according to Nate. She also had issues with her sexuality, Sid and McCullough said, explaining away her attraction to women by calling Rachel a reincarnated man. So Joanna, that's how she explained why she was attracted to Rachel, who was a woman, is because Rachel was really was used to be a man. Like in a former life. Not like she was a man and transitioned. But anyways, both also said that Joanna claimed various occult powers, including the ability to soul bond or tap into multiple personalities at will. Some of these personalities were characters from anime or video games, particularly Final Fantasy VII. The games, she was a big fan of Final Fantasy VII, but the reason there was such a following online at the time is because the aesthetics in the game and just the gameplay, it was so new and it had so many people and they were all about Japan all of a sudden, right? Like learning anime and they were all about it. Like, it was just fascinating. And so again, this became really popular in the Otherkin community. And so in this community, people would claim to be animals, spirits, fictional characters inhabiting human bodies. And Joseph Laycock, a professor of religious studies at Texas State University, says that Otherkin status often functions as something closer to a personal identity. And despite the general scorn the internet holds for them, he says it's important to understand that the people claiming the identity aren't necessarily crazy. Like, just because they're part
every time. I mean, is he leaving work? What's happening?
Maybe he's going to work. Who knows?
Maybe. Okay.
Anyways, so he wanted people to understand that just because someone was part of the Otherkin community didn't necessarily mean that they were actually crazy. Now, that's not talking about soul bonders who think they're reincarnated games. He's talking about the Otherkin the original subset. So anyways, Sid had a rough upbringing before he entered Alfred University in 2001. He didn't get on well with his family. He was beginning to grapple with his gender identity. He freely admits that he was drinking way too much during his freshman year. But college also exposed him to video games, particularly Final Fantasy VII. And he started participating in the online fan community, posting fan art, role-playing in instant message chat rooms, and building a website shrine to Cloud and Zack, his two favorite characters in the game. So it was a good environment. He said he felt very welcome, like the online community made him feel like he was normal, that he had people he could talk to and share, like he would draw the art and stuff. So anyways, his website put him on Joanna's radar, and in 2001, they struck up a correspondence chatting on AOL Instant Messenger about Final Fantasy and the practice of magic. Sid had dabbled in paganism during high school, so this didn't really strike him as odd at the time. Somewhat stranger was Joanna's habit of insisting he call her Jenova, which was a villain from the game, and speaking as if she were the actual character. But he said that was also explainable as role-playing was a particular pastime in this community. So when Joanna insisted that Sid was a reincarnation of Zack, another character, Sid just went along with it. Their subsequent interactions were pleasant enough that at Christmas, Joanna and Rachel offered to put Sid up for a weekend and introduce him to some like-minded people. Sid accepted and bought a bus ticket from New York to State College. The 2-bedroom apartment was a mess when he walked in. He recalled covered in dirty laundry, dusted with glitter. Joanna herself was unpredictable, he said, screaming in Rachel's face one minute, smiling warmly the next. Slowly, Sid realized that Joanna's talk of reincarnation and all of that stuff, like I said, he realized that it was something more. And so, but despite all of it, he said he enjoyed himself. So Joanna and Rachel were fun to goof around with. He liked the people they introduced him to. Joanna bestowed Final Fantasy VII related nicknames upon all of her friends. So he just thought it was it was his people. And so there was Eris, a quiet girl Joanna had romantic designs on, which is like romantic feelings, and Otherkin guy named Sid, and McCullough, a community college student from Maryland whose friendship with Rachel put her under Joanna's thumb. She opted to call Sid was called Zack. So throughout the spring of 2002, Sid kept in contact with them online and often took the bus over to stay for weekends. The Final Fantasy VII house at this time only consisted of 3 permanent residents, he said. Joanna, Rachel, and a male roommate Joanna had named Gast after a minor character from the game. But Joanna also played host to a revolving door of visitors she had met online. Every single person who lived with her was named after a Final Fantasy character, recalls Clark, an online friend of Joanna's from about this time. She would talk about these people in really loving, warm words for a couple of months, a couple of weeks, and then just like a switch, something would happen and she'd say, oh, this person is evil. They had to leave my house. Strange things began happening when Sid visited. In one case, he said Joanna began pressuring Sid and Eris to hook up since their respective characters were romantically connected in the game. So because the characters in the game were a couple, Joanna would insistently try to get them to hook up. And so when they refused to do this, she loudly announced that she added fistfuls of aphrodisiacs to their food and was basically trying to force them to be together. So during another trip, Joanna and Rachel locked Sid in a soundproof practice room in the Penn State Music Building, hoping it would jar loose memories of his past lives, trying to make him remember his life as Zack, this character. They only released him when he started panicking.
Oh my gosh. That's torture.
Yeah. One time, Sid said Joanna insisted on doing a past life regression on a college friend he had brought along for a visit, which involved lying on the floor in a dark room as Joanna chanted and music played on a loop, a selection from the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, appropriately in my mind called The Nightmare is Just Beginning. I feel like that was a red flag. I feel like that should have been a red flag. But none of that was enough to dissuade Sid from moving in. Joanna offered to put him up for the summer, and he said yes. His relationship with his mother was unraveling, he said, and the prospect of going home to Brooklyn and his family for months on end held no appeal to him. So he moved in his belongings and his pet rat. He got a job at a local supermarket to help pay with rent and settled in. So his home life was not great. And these people just were very welcoming in the beginning and, just made him feel like he was one of them. So shortly after moving in and getting a job and getting settled, things quickly deteriorated. Joanna stopped leaving the apartment. She quit her job. Sid says everyone that lived there was relying on him alone to pay the rent. Multiple members of the Final Fantasy VII house told Vice she relentlessly pressed them for money, all of which went either toward expensive food or an endless succession of magical toys like wands and angel figurines. Sid said he was required to bring home day-old food and coupons from the supermarket, a practice that landed him in trouble with his bosses on more than one occasion. Every night, they ate $10 steaks and Gatorade, a diet that made him very sick. The apartment, already in shambles, devolved into a messy land of laundry, toys, and glitter. Joanna wore the same clothing every day and rarely bathed, McCullough said, referring to anoint herself with oils. Like she preferred to just anoint herself with oils.
She's just smelling like patchouli all over the place.
Yeah. Joanna and Rachel screamed and fought constantly.
Dirt and patchouli. I love that. Grease. Ugh.
Joanna and Rachel screamed and fought constantly, alternating between physical abuse with noisy make-up sex. Guests were made to clean occasionally, but no one would take out the trash. And soon, and this is a quote, soon the air was rank with the odor of sex and rotting meat.
Oh my God. Oh.
God, the smell in that place, Sid wrote an account on his website. It was like a Mod Podge of filth with sparkle, sunshine, fairy, artificial sugar scent sprinted and sprayed over it. It made me sick. The others weren't doing much better. Joanna forced Aries to sit in a bathtub of ice cubes and green food coloring as a part of her magical training. McCullough remembers being summoned up from Maryland for increasingly ludicrous reasons, and Joanna delighted in manipulating her, using her friendship with Rachel to control her online behavior. Crossing Joanna in any way risked her turn, or if you pissed Joanna off, she would turn everyone against you. She would make people online shun you. She would make people, real life people, cut you off. She would basically isolate you from everybody you knew. And so when Aries and Sid had enough and they left, Joanna ensured that their former friends on and offline, like I said, shunned them, didn't speak to them. They had nobody. The place eventually became so disgusting that Joanna and Rachel moved with Sid to a small one-room apartment elsewhere in the complex. He had to carry everything by himself, alone in the heat. Joanna was occupied with spiritual matters. The new apartment was soon equally foul, he said, and worse, it was now impossible to escape the roller coaster of fighting and make-up sex. The supermarket cut Sid's hours to 1 day a week, and with what little money he had brought in was vacuumed up immediately by the others. He and his pet rat were starving. His funds were nearly depleted. And with the exception of McCullough, who still drove up on occasion, the others had mostly fallen away. So now it was just him, Jenova, or Joanna, or Jen, and Rachel. So, it was just him and these two women. So, in desperation for human contact, because I will say, anytime he tried to call somebody or go somewhere, Joanna would monitor him or stalk him or follow him and want to know what he was doing. He wasn't allowed to talk to anyone who didn't leave the house. If he wasn't at work, he couldn't leave the apartment. He was only allowed to go from the apartment to his job and back. And she monitored that. And so in desperation for human contact, Sid said he began writing to an AI program he had stored on his computer, saying things like, "I wish I could just get out of here, So his only conversations were with AI. Then came the morning when someone stole his shoes and he finally snapped. He walked out and spent the next 4 days homeless, hanging out on street corners in the campus computer labs by day, crashing on Sid's couch at night. He didn't tell the locals where he was staying. He said convinced
Crashing on whose?
Sid's couch, one of the former people that used to be part of it but had gotten away.
Oh, I thought that was Sid.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Sid is the author. I forgot. So Sid is the author, but there was a character named Sid. Like the author's name is Sid, S-Y-D. And this guy is C-I-D. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
Whoop.
He was crashing on the other Sid's couch at night. He didn't tell the locals where he was staying. He said convinced that it would somehow get back to Joanna. He didn't feel entirely safe with the other Sid until Sid did help him move out his things and pick up his rat, and his father bought him a plane ticket to a family home in Alabama, far, far away from the Final Seven house. Sid's website, his website warning others of the house launched in 2006. He began telling everyone or anyone who would listen that Joanna was terrible. He said but he hadn't been having much luck. I realized the only way anyone would take these warnings about nice, kind, popular Joanna seriously would be if I collected firsthand accounts of her abuse, including lists of her alternate blogs and AIM accounts. The website initially only had a few stories posted, including a slightly rewritten account of Sid's experience that he had originally posted to LiveJournal. But a week after the site went live, Sid said he found himself bombarded with emails from other people who had encountered Joanna in the Final Fantasy VII house. Now, I didn't include those in here, but if you go to the website or you go to Reddit or you go and you just search this, I mean, you can find tons of horrific stories of things that she did to people who trusted her, who were living there or who would visit there. Anyways, both Sid's initial LiveJournal entry and the 2006 website attracted plenty of curious attention, both in the Final Fantasy fandom and other corners of the internet. And that attention grew as people from outside the relatively close-knit fandom picked up the story, spreading it elsewhere online as an example of a crazy internet horror story. Spectators made a game out of tracking down personal information of the people involved, or of digging up the stranger things that said on private live journals and blogs. Some of this, Sid said, came from an honest attempt to make sure Joanna didn't hurt anyone else in the community, but it seems impossible to deny that much of it was old-fashioned internet shit-stirring. So Joanna and her supporters fought back, deleting old material, sparking flame wars where they raged against Sid and his website. They called him a liar and accused him of being insane, addicted to drugs, and alcoholic. Both sides of the debate took on the tenor of witch hunts. So the fights, egged on by trolls and rubberneckers, they reached an absurd heights in 2008, publication of which is now deleted, but there was a LiveJournal thread that detailed a similar situation to the Final Fantasy house, centered around a nightmarish roommate who made money by conning Otherkin out of money for her religion. These posts, all supposedly authored by different people in the house, read in a suspiciously similar style, but the members of the online forum Something Awful ran with it, preserving the journal entries and launching a long-running attempt to dig up the identity of the woman allegedly described. So commenters on the thread eventually claimed to have discovered that the antagonist of the story was one of the Final Fantasy VII house members, which drew even more attention to Sid's original site. So, in the face of all of this turmoil, Joanna and Rachel went to ground. No one was able, they weren't interviewed in the stories or the videos, they wouldn't answer anyone, but they had addresses in Pennsylvania, Arizona, California, so they just kind of moved around. But the Final Fantasy VII house at its root was built around a common dream, which is why so many people fell for that, right? They found their people, they thought they would move into this house and they would be fine and everything would be great. For the few years between the time Sid left and the website's launch, however, Joanna's movements were easily tracked. So according to McCullough, Nate, and Clark, the Final Fantasy VII house moved again in 2003 to an actual house in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. Joanna drew in a new crop of people from her online relationships, McCullough said, including Patricia, the girl she'd known at Cross Creek a few years before, and Angel, a violent girl Joanna rescued from an abusive relationship. But Joanna's whims remained unpredictable. According to Patricia's testimony on Sid's website, Joanna pushed her into working as a stripper to raise more money for the group. After that, it gets a little vague. According to Nate and Clark, both of whom were still in contact with her, she and Rachel relocated to Arizona, setting up yet another incarnation of the house. Clark remembers her badgering him to come down and live with her. Nate's last clue about her whereabouts came when she called him out of the blue from California in 2006. She said she was doing a lot better, that she was trying to make up for all the bad things she had done to people, and that was the last that anybody at that time had heard from her. The Final Fantasy VII house, like I said, it just kind of moved around. Sid estimates that about 20 people were sucked into Joanna's real-world orbit and many more online. He and McCullough got their lives together, though still feel scared and scarred by the experience. Joe was very good at selecting people who could be manipulated and forced into being victims, Sid said. She recruited the disaffected, he went on, those with bad home lives or issues with gender and sexuality. The kinds of people looking for fellowship online who saw an offer of a place where they could be themselves and they jumped at it. People a little bit like Joanna herself. But by the time you realized you were screwed, you had no one you trusted to bail you out. So where are these people now? So Sid actually lives in Massachusetts now. He is married. He runs a web comic for the last couple of years. And in 2019, he was diagnosed with stage 3A invasive ductal carcinoma. But he underwent chemotherapy and radiation. And at this time is currently cancer-free. Parts of his website about the warnings are still up. But good old Jenova, Miss Jennifer Cornett, is still doing different fandoms. So she has created several websites over the years for different shows and games and other things of the sort. It was also said on several sources she was at one time trying to start a sex cult. She moved on to creating a Hannibal cult. Hannibal was a show that premiered in 2013 and has infamously gained a severe cult following in the most literal sense. And it was here in the Hannibal fandom, or as they call it, Fandables, where Jennifer made her next move. She created a website known as Tattle Crime and slowly began to build a following. She started going by the name Frederica Avery and basically created a whole other cult and started abusing fans that fell into her new Hannibal fandom type cult. It could literally be like its own episode, like her Tattle Crime site. Basically, she would recruit people to come live with her once again, going by this name. But when people started to call her out, like on her Tattle Crime, people like, you look like that Final Fantasy housewoman, she immediately shut her Tattle Crime website down and like tried to cover her tracks and pretend it wasn't her. But lots of people tried to start warning the people that were living with her and calling her Frederica that she was not Frederica, that her name was actually Jennifer Cornett. Again, the title of the full video of that cult, the Hannibal fandom, and what happened when she got called out, the video is called Unfortunately Tattle Crime, What Happened After Final Fantasy House. Honestly, it's a good video. Like I said, it could be a whole nother episode on what she did to those poor people, but more along the lines of still abusing them, manipulating them, trying to get money from them, duping them, making them feel accepted, and then like turning their worlds upside down, stealing from them, all kinds of stuff.
Maybe you should do another story. Yeah. I mean, like the more awareness people have, I mean, this is like blowing my mind that there was there's this whole other subculture that like real life is so horrible for some people that getting, your social life online is what you have to do. And it's just, that's awful.
And Hannibal was a real show. It wasn't like a video game or anything. And so she started manipulating those people. And so she's often referred to as the internet's most elusive cult leader. And
that's Hannibal Lecter, right? I mean, that
Hannibal. I haven't watched
the
show,
okay.
So I don't want to say wrong, but I can tell you.
It's okay. Didn't want
to. It's a psychological horror thriller television show developed by Ryan Fuller for NBC. So
about Hannibal Lecter.
It says, oh my gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. It says gifted criminal profiler William Graham has a unique way of thinking that allows him to empathize with anyone, including psychopaths. But while helping the FBI pursue a particular complicated serial killer, he decides he could use the help and enlist the brilliant psychiatrist Hannibal Lecter.
Okay, so
the two form a partnership, and it seems there is no villain that can't catch together, but Lecter harbors a dark secret. His own brilliant mind has gone to the dark side, and he has more in common with the criminals they hunt than Will could possibly imagine. So their fans are called Fandoms.
Why can't they just get a Jodie Foster replacement? Or there gotta be another dude.
But anyway, so it's no longer airing. The series finale aired in 2015. But at that time, she was recruiting a lot of people who were big fans of the show, who thought they were characters from the show, who whatever. So that's my story on the Final Fantasy VII. And I know it wasn't very long, but I thought it was crazy and just really fascinating that this was a thing.
Seriously, blows my mind.
And I had never heard about it.
Never.
And I saw it and I was like, I wanted to do that.
I learned a lot of new words.
Yes.
Otherkin.
Yes.
Okay. And then that's different than the soul bonders. And yeah. I mean, wow. I mean, just the beginning of the story where just getting us up to date was hard for me to wrap my mind around.
Other examples of Otherkin for people who are interested are angels, demons, dragons, elves, fairies, aliens, cartoon characters. They believe in the existence of a multitude of parallel universes, and their belief in the existence of supernatural beings is grounded in that idea.
I just have never heard that word.
Yeah.
And it's not just the dressing up at Renfest.
It's not just cosplay. It is a full belief.
This is what they are every day.
Yeah.
So they've got the elf ears
demonkin is someone who identifies as a demon or being demon-like. Obviously, angelkin refers to someone who is literally an angel and a temporary human host, and a dragonkin is a type of
does that seem
humanoid
sort of? Okay. And so would the people, I have so many questions. So would the people who get the plastic surgery to look like a snake or to look like a cat, or are they considered otherkin, or is that because they are changing physically what their body looks like on the outside forever?
Yeah, I don't know if this I know what you're talking about, but I don't know if
to look like they've got.
Soul bonders are hosts who feel an intense connection to a character to where that character becomes a headmate or takes a voice in their head. These can be considered systems. This differs from kin type that a soul bond is a separate person. However, a soul bonder may still have kin types, which is super confusing.
Oh boy.
So,
well, I think we all learned a lesson here tonight, and don't make fun of me for not knowing Final Fantasy. A lot of people play video games, and so everyone's going to be like, that cat, what a maroon. But yeah, I
think soul bond is more where in their mind they think they have the soul of the character or whatever, whereas Otherkin thinks they are that mythical creature.
That's
That's my understanding of it. But yeah.
All right. Wow.
Like I said, there will be a lot in the show notes. You can in-depth articles. There's several YouTube videos that I linked to that talk about it, really in depth. They talk about stuff from the website when it was up, and they have forums that they show examples of. They show them. And
do we get to see Sid on any of these any of these videos?
I didn't see him in any of the videos. That's not his real name,
right.
So I don't know how to even find pictures of him. Now I can find pictures, obviously, as you saw, of Jennifer because she's a nutbag and she is like...
She can't stay off the internet.
Yeah. So there's tons of pictures of Jennifer. I couldn't find pictures of the other people.
That was from the Hannibal.
Yeah. And I found some from when she was trying to start her little sex cult thing going on. So, but yes, I don't know if there's pictures of the other people. I didn't see any because they all go by different, they don't go by their real name. So.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, that was a trip.
I thought it would be a little better than the last story I did.
A trip. It's really sad that somebody just...
It's so
I don't know.
Like...
Guys, if somebody's trying to take your money, like if somebody like is telling you this is who you are, you're not this, you're that,
or you have to be with this person.
Like run, don't,
we'll be your friends.
We will be your friends.
I'm into all kinds of weird stuff. So video games, reading, poetry, all kinds of things. The dark, mysterious, the dark web.
Mysterious. If you like musicals and murders, we're, I'm your gal.
We're into lots of different things over here. Okay. So
we are. But okay. So next week, we hope to be able to announce a winner. So in order to win this awesome art that Ashley shared, you have to put.
I think I put through September.
Oh, through September? Oh, so sorry. Never mind. So through September, don't forget, make a review, put a review out. We're on all the podcasting platforms, just on the one you're listening to us right now on. Just put a review. Quick, bloop, bloop, bloop.
Screenshot it, send it.
And then we'll get it and you'll be entered in to win. And check out the pictures because Ashley did post those on our, did you put it on anything?
I put it on Facebook. I think I put it on Instagram. But I can put it I can send it to you and you can go wherever. Yeah. But the artwork in real life is just so beautiful, and it's a mixture of horror and 90s and just different things like movies, cartoons.
Yeah, it's nice.
So anyways.
And she has a picture of what they look like on her wall.
Yeah, it's really hard because my wall is gray, and so the shadows are really bad, but I can take better pictures if you really need a detailed picture of what you're leaving us a review for. But guys, please just leave us reviews. We love you.
We love you. You love us. That's it. Okay, so until next week.
We never even said it had to be a good review.
Oh, well, don't put that.
I mean, we would love for it to be a great review, okay? I'm just saying, just leave us a review.
Why are you listening to us? Why have you gotten this far?
Give us 5 stars. You don't even have to put any writing. Just,
Why are you listening this far if you're going to...
We love you.
Put a bad review, though.
Don't put a bad review. I'm just saying you could literally do anything.
Don't be ridiculous. All right, everybody. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Be kind to one another, please. And try to stay cool. We're dying here under the heat dome. Dying. Yes. But we'll see you next week. Bye.